Depression is an extreme amount of sadness that continues for a long period of time, and it's important to include that long period of time in there because everybody gets sad. It's not just sadness.
Typically it's a change in mood where a person is basically of one kind of mentality and then all of a sudden they're a different kind of mentality. It can be in an emotionally low state, it could be despondent.
But most really in-depth people that have depression, it's a clinical thing, and it's sometimes hereditary, and sometimes you're born with it. It's also a mental imbalance and a chemical imbalance in your brain.
You basically have lost your motivation because you lose your sense of self and your sense of confidence.
What are some signs of depression?
Yes.
Well, I guess depression signs can be varied. You probably have to know a person to know whether they're depressed or not.
Isolate themselves from everybody. When they're more quiet, they're not themselves.
Tunnel vision in depression happens because your brain waves aren't connecting to think about other things, that they're just thinking about what you're upset about. So there isn't any other things around you that you can be happy about because you have to constantly think about that because you have tunnel vision.
They just become disconnected. They're not where they used to be as far as their relationships and their friendships and their place as a daughter or son or in school as a student, because they don't really know who they are, and they're not very happy with where they are, so they don't want to try, so they don't. Everything goes downhill. Their grades, their health, their sports, everything that they participate in can't be to its full potential because they aren't reached their.
Why do you think teenagers specifically are depressed, and why do you think depression plays into being a teenager, vice versa?
Depression is found mostly in teens because of all of the stress that you have to deal with, dealing with peers on a daily basis, dealing with people that are still developing mentally themselves.
Stress, a lot of pressure being a teenager, and boyfriend problems, girlfriend problems, and friends, and if your parents aren't around, it's really hard.
Relationships, maybe if they have family issues, divorce, a death, or if they're just overwhelmed with everything. They're tired of maybe being in school or dealing with the same thing every day.
As an educator, you definitely see, especially with teenage students, I think they go through a lot of peaks and valleys, highs and lows, and you can see students who are normally very cheerful, happy, normal students, and then another day they'll be listless, speechless, even physically down. I mean, you can see, just their physical outward appearance and the way that they address people can be totally different. And then they can be fine the next day. So we definitely see signs of depression in high school students, and I think the reasons can be varied. Teenagers are under a lot of stress. They're at the point in their lives where they're trying to plan for their future, they're trying to be successful in school, they're trying to do all the right things that they're supposed to.
Okay, so at what point do you think that it's worth going to a doctor for?
When you think about suicide?
I would say, definitely thoughts of suicide.
So you think that, why do you think people think of suicide? Why do you think that comes to mind when you're depressed?
Well, among teenagers.
Among teenagers, yeah.
Teenagers don't feel like there's any other way out.
Than that.
Because we're just so young.
Helpless, worthless.
Okay,
They don't feel anything.
Okay, can you tell me what your experience would be with suicide and depression in your life, and how that can affect you or other people?
Someone very close to me dealt with depression and suicide a little bit ago. They were sent away for a while, and it affected my family.
Well, first of all, I used to think that depression and stuff, it was kind of not necessarily a myth, but I didn't really believe in it. But it's funny because with my own mother, it came on so quick, a bunch of stuff piled up real fast, and she eventually tried to kill herself twice, 2 different occasions, and she went away, and that can affect people because me, it's my mom, so you know what I'm saying, and that's kind of why I even came to Hanover, was because I just she needed to have her time to recover and do things that she needed to do to get better, and it can separate a family. But
I became really like upset. Like I wouldn't want to go to school, and I just wanted to sleep. Like I probably missed consecutively like a month and a half of school, just staying home and like sleeping. And around that time, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, and it was terminal. And my older sister, who was like my idol, like I wanted to be just like her, became pregnant before she got married. And that was always something, like getting pregnant before I got married was always something that like I thought was really, really like bad to happen. And just kind of made me think that like she wasn't really the person who I thought she was. So I just wanted to sleep, and whenever anyone would ask me what was wrong, like I wouldn't really answer them. And whenever they would ask me if it was because my dad being diagnosed with cancer, I would just say that it wasn't. But I guess subconsciously it really was. Like even at the time I really didn't think it was, because I was always okay with it, because I always felt like I had to be the stronger person for the people around me. So my sister kind of let me down and ruined like the relationship we had, and like I lost my dad, so I mean, I don't know, it just really affected me.
How many of you guys would say that you know somebody close to you, or even you personally, who's had either suicidal thoughts or been really depressed at some point in time in their life? Can you raise your hand for me?
I open my eyes, I try to see, but I'm blinded by the white light. I can't remember how, I can't remember why I'm lying here tonight, and I can't stand the pain, and I can't make it go away. No, I can't stand the pain. How could this happen to me? I made my mistakes, got nowhere to run. The night goes on as I'm fading away. I'm sick of this life, I just wanna scream. How could this happen to me?
Say maybe a family member or someone notices that they've been acting a different way for, say, like over like 2 weeks. That would be a good time to start seeing a therapist and getting medicine.
What would you say about like changing depression, like having a cure for it? Or
Well, if they're actually depressed, I'd say they need some help and should probably go to the doctor, because they do give out prescriptions for that.
What would you say to like anybody that was going through that same situation? Like what would you tell them?
I think you need to talk about, because it could have been fixed a lot quicker if I would have just came out and said what was bothering me. So you just have to explain what's going on and not be afraid to talk about it with other people.
People that they can talk to, they can get help. Like, they aren't alone. Other people experience it. Everybody's depressed at some point.
The only advice that I personally could give to someone who's all depressed out or feeling suicidal would just be to like, you're gonna have to see through it, because you need to have faith that things are gonna get better. But then I'd be like, if that didn't help them, I'd be like, you need to go find some other help then.
They could go to a therapist. I mean, they could see a guidance counselor. If the guidance counselor thinks it's bad, then they could send them to get medicine.
Everything's gonna be all right. Don't dwell on the day, look towards tomorrow.
Pretty much just keep trucking along. It'll get better.
Got too much to lose.
Nothing's more important than your life, no matter what problem you're having.
Just try and be happy. Do what you need to do in order to be happy.